Welcome everyone to this episode of the Gretchen Casey Show, where I talk to real people in the field of real estate who are not only experts, but they're very generous and willing to share their time and knowledge and information with us here. And the goal of the show is for you as the audience to gain some information, some tips, and things to help you to achieve your goals in real estate and to take some of the guesswork out of the process on who to call, what to do, and those sorts of things. So today I have Shari Countryman with me, and Shari is the Durham Market Account Manager for Genworth, Canada. And Genworth is the largest private residential mortgage insurer in Canada. And I'm going to ask Shari to please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you and your role and what Genworth does.
Great. Thanks so much, Gretchen, for having me here today. And I'm so excited to be able to share some industry information, some Genworth information with anyone that is out there and thinking about obviously purchasing a home. So what is it I do? I am a relationship and business development manager with Genworth Canada. And as Gretchen said, I look after the Durham market. Durham market is actually quite extensive because I look after customers from Pickering to Kingston, and I go as far north as Bancroft and cover off for the Peterborough and Kawartha. I support realtors, lenders, and mortgage agents and brokers such as Gretchen, and I provide training and education surrounding the home buying purchase. The process includes, information on Genworth products and services, our underwriting, business development, and resources to support business development for all of the industry partners that I've mentioned, and insights into market trends, which we'll talk about some of that later on today too. The support of my industry partners is about making home ownership more accessible to first-time home buyers. So meaning you can achieve the dream of home ownership with as little as 5% down. And I know that many people might say, well, isn't that the business of CMHC to provide people, with home ownership where they can get in for as little as 5% down? Well, in fact, there are 3 mortgage insurers across Canada, and CMHC is your government or crown corporation that has default mortgage insurance as part of their business. But we at Genworth solely concentrate on just default mortgage insurance, which is why we are the largest private residential mortgage default insurer in Canada.
Excellent. Yeah, and lots of people I don't think realize that. So, and what would be a benefit of having Genworth and not just having CMHC as an insurer?
So right now, particularly, there are some changes that CMHC is going to implement on July 1st. So they are looking to actually have a debt service that is lower and a beacon that is higher that they're going to expect from the clientele for submissions that they see. So in other words, there's going to be a percentage of the market that may have lower beacon scores due to maybe some past credit issues, but they're working towards it, reestablishing and gaining back some better credit. And they might have or be at the top of their debt servicing when they're looking to apply for a mortgage. And it's those that sector of borrowers that potentially CMHC is saying that they are going to look to make these changes and implement new kind of guidelines that lenders would have to adhere to when they send them in a submission. So Genworth will not be following CMHC changes that will take effect on July the 1st. But really the biggest difference would be the fact that CMHC as a crown corporation has a number of different facets that they administer. Anything to do with national housing strategy, as well as their default mortgage side of their business, which, as I said, Genworth as a default mortgage insurer, private default mortgage insurer, we have one goal, which is to help people achieve the dream of home ownership sooner and responsibly, meaning we never want to put someone into a home that they can't afford. And we're very comfortable using the underwriting principles and policies that we have in place right now. We don't feel that our exposure to that segment of borrowers that may have a lower credit score or be looking at a higher debt servicing, we don't feel that our exposure to that segment of borrowers is something that brings us concern enough that we would need to change or implement changes. Again, I repeat, we will be status quo come July 1st.
Okay. And that is great news for the borrowers who maybe were going to be kind of penalized with the CMHC rules, that we have another option. And I'm just going to add in, maybe for the benefit of someone listening who still isn't really clear about Genworth's role. What happens is that if myself as a mortgage agent, I'm looking at an application, I know the person doesn't have a 20% down payment, they're going to live in the home, and I need to be aware of what's available with less than 20% down, so that when I submit the application to a lender, I know that, oh, well, this could be insured by Genworth, it meets their criteria, this lender can approve this application, and we're so fortunate because Genworth will insure it and protect the interest of the lender and ultimately also the borrower. This deal will get approved. So it's really important, because if Genworth didn't exist, it could be a situation, when you don't have mortgage insurers, lenders aren't going to take as much risk. So they might say, well, we only take applications with 20% down or something. And many, many people couldn't meet that criteria. So it helps everybody to have Genworth helping the whole industry.
And we have a number of niche products as well, Gretchen, to address certain borrowers. You've mentioned a couple, but certainly, what about our business for sale for our new to Canada? What about someone wanting to buy a secondary or vacation property? So we have lots of niche products. And again, many times with just a 5% down payment that you can get into home ownership. So great opportunities.
Yeah, and I was talking to someone else earlier today who they were reminding me or informing me that we're very fortunate in Canada. There are some countries where you're definitely not going to buy a house for 5% down at a decent interest rate anywhere. So we're very fortunate to have this system in place and these programs in place, and Genworth's ability to help us to not have to have huge down payments. So it's a good thing.
It is a good thing, but you've mentioned another great facet, which is the 5% down in the lenders being able to offer that as well. The one thing I want to just mention is that certainly, we work with 250 lenders across Canada. So there's a number of potential, again, opportunities for customers to work with a lender of their choice, whether that be a credit union or a big bank, one of the major five, or maybe it's a mono line, like a mortgage finance company. So lots of avenues for us to assist your customers and give them a variety of choices for lender as well.
Excellent. So before, when we were getting ready for this conversation, we were talking about, you do some great research, and you mentioned the financial fitness survey, and that this is part of the benefit is there's some things, as you say, with millennials, first-time buyers. So maybe you could tell us more about that.
Yeah, so every other year, Gretchen, we actually have an outside company called Embryonics. They are a Canadian company. They do our survey for us, but every other year we have a financial fitness survey conducted. And we usually poll about 2,000 or so Canadians. We want to get consumers' feedback. We want to understand the behaviors, what's motivating a home purchase, or maybe not motivating them to buy. Because all of this information we share with partners like yourself, we share with our public. It's all on our website, and you're able to view it because we're totally transparent. So this survey really has, over the years, given us great indicators as to who our buying public is. And it's no big surprise that our millennials right now are our biggest segment of first-time home buyers. And millennials, for our purposes of the survey, fall between being born 1980 to 1995. So 25 to 40. And what we saw in our survey results, and we did something a little bit different this year, of course, COVID, we can't have a conversation at all without bringing COVID into it, but we generally do the survey always in February and March. And of course, who presented us with pandemic proportions in March? And then we wanted to understand, how were people feeling once COVID hit? Were their answers the same? Did they feel the same way? What was the change in percentages around some of the same questions? So we went out with a subset and asked them questions in May. So this is some great information, both pre and post lockdown. And still, what we found out, yes, millennials who don't own a home yet are looking to buy within the next 24 months. This is still an amazing time to consider that. Pre-COVID, they said we're looking to buy in the next 24 months. So you might say, well, what happened post-lockdown? Surprisingly, the numbers went up. Even more people, even more millennials are looking to buy in the next 24 months. So whether they had concerns about their landlord selling the property, whether they just felt that there was a more comfort level that they could achieve during this time of uncertainty by having their own home as opposed to renting, whatever the reasoning, the numbers went from 24% to 39%.
Oh, wow.
So
huge increase.
Yeah, a big jump.
And I bet some of them want to get out of mom and dad's basement or whatever.
Maybe mom and dad want them to get out of mom and dad's basement.
Could be.
But really, that was a huge signal that COVID wasn't impacting people's desire to buy a home. So that was really great. I think great news for us to see and to understand that, and there was two segments that took a big jump and took a big leap and said, we still want to buy. And it wasn't just millennials. We had millennials who, I think the number was 42%. Felt really good about buying right now. And the numbers were even higher for our new Canadians. And interestingly enough, both of those segments now, post-lockdown, are thinking that they would be more so high ratio now than before. So obviously, the impact of isolation, the impact of perhaps job loss, maybe people having to draw on their savings, they maybe feel that they want to leave more money in the bank. They want that safety net to fall back on. And now I think more people will be looking to actually utilize our products to go into home ownership with a minimum amount, as opposed to trying to max out that amount. And, again, lenders, we mentioned about the lenders that we work with, they're also offering great rates for high ratio mortgages. We've mentioned low rates, but in fact, often there are even lower rates to be had for first-time borrowers that go into a high ratio space. So, this is going to give them the opportunity to really be able to purchase with minimum down, take advantage of low interest rates, and have a safety net or fallback in their bank accounts should, God forbid, something nasty happen down the road. 58% of millennials also are looking to, there's 58% that are squarely in that buying space of moving, whether it's moving for the first time, buying for the first time, or actually upgrading. And I think 25% are around close to 25%, or a quarter, are looking to sell and buy another house in 24 months. So even our first-time home buyers that recently bought are actually looking to upsize already or buy a larger home. Most of them want larger and in a suburban area.
Okay. It's amazing. That's I think that's positive that people are proceeding with their dreams and they are optimistic and they want to continue to have an improved life.
Absolutely. And obviously, you know, COVID and the questions that we asked, it's absolutely showing that this is not a deterrent. It's not something that's going to hold them back from achieving a dream.
Okay. And what you mentioned, the new to Canada, are there any other interesting findings around the new immigrants, new to Canada segment?
Always. So, I mean, again, unfortunately, I've got to bring COVID into the conversation, but with borders closed, I mean, we have a really robust immigration policy here in Canada. And we know that of the G7, and when I refer to the G7, that's a group of countries that get together to have economic talks and talk about ways that they can improve policies. And, you know, there are major countries like the UK and I believe France, Germany, there's 7 major, US, ourselves, there's 7 major countries. And out of these 7 major countries, we actually have the highest percentage of home ownership. So 7 out of 10 Canadians own their own home. And we take a lot of this for granted as Canadians. And yet, you know, our new to Canada folks understand that home ownership may not have been something that was achievable in their country of origin. So when they arrive here, it's absolutely a top priority and it's on their bucket list at like first place. And we know that because, again, if we looked back even 2 years ago to our study, it had taken a big jump in 2018 over 2016 numbers in the new to Canada or new Canadians that were buying homes. A matter of fact, it took a jump from 1 in 5 new Canadians as first-time home buyers in 2016 to 1 in 4 in 2018. And that number remains steady. And if it weren't for COVID and if it weren't for border closings, and I'm just not sure how easy immigration will be, you know, over the next few months, if it weren't for those things as a deterrent, I would think that, you know, we would easily see those numbers climb as to how many new Canadians are looking to get into home ownership. Among new Canadians, 34% who don't currently own plan to buy in the next 24 months.
Wow.
So, yeah. So again, when you've got millennials and you've got new Canadians and you've got the percentages that we're seeing that want to buy, it absolutely speaks to a robust housing market, which is fantastic. And we know that immigration has been driving the housing market for some time. The new subdivisions that are in place, infrastructure, when we look at places like the 407 and north of the 407 in Whitby and the growth along the 407. And part of that is because of the demand for housing, and the demand is there because of the immigrants that we have coming into Canada. We've got and we understand that new Canadians may need to do some research around home ownership. We certainly on our website offer an amazing brochure to help our new Canadians understand what type of documentation, Gretchen, that you and a lender would be looking for when they come and see you about home purchase. We want to be able to help with that education process and research process. So we offer a lot of great information on our website. So at our website is www.genworth, and that's GENWORTH.ca. And on our site, as I said, everything's transparent. So there's a home buyer tab. And under the home buyer tab, if you're a potential home buyer, you can access the New to Canada brochure. You can look at our program. You can see if you're a fit. there's our homeownership.ca website, which if you're a new Canadian, you know, culture shock could be an issue for you depending on where you're coming from. Also, it could be a language barrier for you. So we want you to have a comfort level in doing your research, and we provide our website with 6 different languages that you can do your research in as a new immigrant here in Canada.
That's a great
And
tool.
it is, right? I mean,
Yeah, because I don't have stuff in multiple languages, so I can send them there and access that information.
It'll be translated. You won't need an interpreter that way, Gretchen, hopefully.
That's good.
So yeah, I would really encourage anyone that's looking for some more information around home buying or purchasing to absolutely visit that homeownership.ca. Fantastic tools. Everything from A to Z of house buying, quite frankly, can be found on that site to help you with the process and to prepare you so that when you go to visit Gretchen, you have your I's dotted, your T's crossed, and maybe you have the documentation that she's going to be looking for because you've had an opportunity to learn more about what, in fact, you would actually need to start the home buying process.
Excellent. I'm going to ask you about one more segment. You did mention the self-employed. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you help self-employed people to be able to prove income, and when it's a little bit, there are people on contract, which they're actually considered self-employed because they have to file their own taxes for all the write-offs?
Yeah, so again, working with different lenders, we offer 2 different products, which is provable income, which would be normal, you know, producing your T4, your pay stubs. But we also have something called stated income. And for some business for self, this is a program which allows them to be able to qualify for a mortgage outside of the old standard provable income. And with stated income, now keep in mind common sense, we are looking for the stated to be reasonable. But we are going to determine that by many pieces of information. So it's difficult for me to say just simply, you know, you state you make 75,000, we take your word for it. There's a bit more that it entails, but at the end of the day, being able to have stated for some of our self-employed that maybe are hairdressers or are you know, electricians or drywallers or landscapers. You know, it's these type of small business people that we want to be able to help achieve home ownership as well. So we offer 2 different programs for business for self because we understand that there's a need. Yeah.
Excellent. I love it. Okay, so some people are wondering, because of COVID and because of prices being high, is this a good time to buy a home? And do you have any comments around that? And what would you say?
So that's interesting because I know that prior to COVID, close to 2/3 of Canadians were positive that it was a good time to buy. That's again some pretty big numbers around people stating, yes, I want to buy a home. Unfortunately, we did see a decrease in consumer confidence because of COVID. Majority of that, I'm going to guesstimate, was due to job loss for some sectors of buyers, but that's temporary. The job loss in most cases hopefully will be temporary. Unfortunately, there may be some businesses that don't make it through COVID, but many will. They'll just have to make some changes and alterations, which we're seeing every day happen, changing, adapting to our new environment. And people are starting to return to work. So, you know, is it a good time to buy? Well, more citizens, more consumers are a little concerned about making ends meet month to month. But the Financial Fitness Survey also told us, though, that those that already own a home, so even if they're were a first-time buyer and they own a home, anyone that currently has a mortgage feels very comfortable about their financial health. Homeowners tend to feel more comfortable than renters. So whether it is that security of that place called home, I'm not sure 100%. We'd have to dig a little bit deeper into that question. I mean, you know, we've talked about CMHC, and CMHC has made some commentary, such as, you know, talking to a big drop in the market, which may have put a little bit of fear into some folks about whether or not, you know, they should sell if they felt that the market was decreased or depreciating, or whether they should buy or wait if the market was going to drop. Would I get a better price if I waited? But in fact, we're not seeing those prices drop. I think what we have to remember is that some of the numbers that we saw might have been a more generic number for across Canada, and taking into account other markets like Alberta, where, you know, they have the oil crisis along with COVID, which is certainly a driver to, you know, a depreciating housing stock. We're not seeing that in Ontario, of course. It's very different dynamics for us. So we can't paint every area, geographic area, territory with the same brush. So if, you know, if you say, is it a good time to buy a house here in Ontario? I would have to say certainly yes. We are still seeing bidding wars. We are still seeing value that is being maintained. We are not seeing the drops that CMHC hinted towards. In fact, we at Genworth had always considered that maybe we would see maybe a 5% drop in the market. And maybe that happened briefly in March, if at all, in Durham. But in all honesty, we've not seen any real drops in prices. We continue to have bidding wars. You know, the numbers tell us there's still all kinds of Canadians that are looking to get into home ownership. So I would have to say, you know, why put off till tomorrow what you can do today? I don't know that prices are going to depreciate. So if that's what you're waiting for, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't say for certain because we don't know how long COVID is going to last. But, you know, our business year over year, I can honestly say, you know, our volume year over year has exceeded last year. So, you know, this would indicate to us that there's a robust and thriving housing market right now, which in turn tells us that people are buying. So if it's not a good time to buy, then there's a lot of people, I guess, buying at the wrong time. Because there's a lot of people buying. So
fair enough.
There's a lot of people buying. The only other thing I can say is shortage of inventory. You know, and Gretchen, you've got realtor partners, and I'm sure, you know, that's still, I was just on another earlier call, and again, the shortage of inventory was mentioned. So yes, we have a lot of people looking for pre-approvals, but we don't maybe have the housing stock that they're looking for. That's the unfortunate part. And that's been a problem for the last couple of years. Now, if we can convince some of these people, you know, maybe those millennials that want to upsize in the next 24 months, if we can convince, you know, more people, sellers to enter the market, perhaps we can, you know, squeeze down that gap between not having the right stock available.
Good point. Okay, excellent. So what would be your last piece of advice for Canadians right now?
Oh, that's such a tough one. Honestly, I think I would say, make sure when you're going into this that it's eyes wide open. So I've mentioned our website, I've mentioned the tools and resources that we have available. I think doing your research is so very, very important. This is one of the biggest investments you'll likely make in your lifetime, one that you'll be very, very proud of, one that will appreciate, and you know, you'll raise families, and you will have memories that you'll carry with you, you know, always for birthday parties and anniversaries and backyard barbecues, and maybe even, you know, social distancing in the driveway with the neighbors. But whatever the memories are, you know, having a home to make them in is probably, as I said, the best possible investment that you could make. Just enjoy the experience though, enjoy the ride, do the research, and, you know, work with professionals like Gretchen. who has so many years behind her to be able to give you qualified advice to really, be comfortable going through this process, because it is a lengthy process and it can be overwhelming for those of you that maybe haven't, done this before or are doing it for the first time. And maybe it's not the first time, maybe this is a second property that you want to look to purchase. But whatever the case may be, do your homework, work with a professional, and try to enjoy the ride.
I think that's excellent advice. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of your information and educating us all on what Genworth does for us and how you work with home buyers and myself. And if you want to share one more time the websites to get some information, and then I'll also share it in the comments when on Facebook.
Great. Thanks so much. It's www.genworth.ca, and our sister site, just specifically for home buyers, but certainly you realtors, agents, everyone's welcome to check it out. And that is www.homeownership.ca, which you can get to it by just typing that in, or you can find it by going under the homebuyer tab on our regular website.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing so much great information with us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Take care.
Take care.